Hello, everybody, and welcome to Reviews That Don't Matter with Jessica Hitt. My name is Jessica Hitt, and on today's episode, we are talking Valerian and the City of a Thousand Planets. Is that what it's called? I just call it Valerian. Valerian is the latest movie to come out of Luc Besson's interesting mind. This is a movie he's been working on making for like 25 years or something like that. Like he's been waiting to get the rights for it. It's like a passion project for him. And it's also based off a very incredibly popular comic or graphic novel series from France called Valerian and Laureline. I believe that's what it's called. And basically it follows around Valerian and Laureline, two agents of this city called Alpha, which is made up of thousands of planets, like the title suggests. And basically it's kind of this thing about they're trying to save Alpha. The plot is very convoluted, and I'll get into that later. Valerian stars Dane DeHaan as Valerian and Cara Delevingne as Laureline. And that's where we're going to start. We're going to talk about the casting. And a lot of people have been dogging on the casting of Dane DeHaan and Cara Delevingne. I personally really love the casting of Dane DeHaan. I thought it was an atypical choice for a movie like this where, he's not a Liam Hemsworth. He's not a Zac Efron. He's not something like that. He is Dane DeHaan. He's kind of weird looking and very odd, and his acting choices can sometimes... I understand how some people might not like his acting choices, but I personally really enjoyed his character and his acting choices in this movie. Cara Delevingne is someone that I was convinced could not act. I mean, she was in Paper Towns, which I really disliked her character and the way she played it. As much fun as Suicide Squad was, she was the worst part of Suicide Squad. Her as the Enchantress was terrible. She had a terrible American accent. She had this weird thing where she was like twitching all the time, and it didn't work. She was not good in that movie, and I was almost convinced that she just was actually a terrible actress. And I was wondering how she kept getting roles like this. And I knew leading up to this film that this was going to be a hard film to market to the American audience. Mainly because, let's be real, those two actors don't carry a lot of clout with the broader American theater goers. Also, I just don't think this is a summer movie. I really don't. I think that this is a fall or winter movie. I'll say it there, even though it's a blockbuster and costs like $200 million to make, which luckily most of that was absorbed by France's side, and they took a lot of cuts on that. So there wasn't too much spent in the American side of things, so they're not losing too much money on that. But for the opening weekend, making like $17 million is not good. And I think everybody knew it wasn't going to do well, and knew about 17 was honestly kind of high. I thought it was going to be like 7 million. And then, of course, the early reviews came in and basically just trashed the movies from the acting to the plot line. They said it's visually stunning and all of that kind of stuff is great, and the world building's fantastic, but it made no sense as a movie. But I was really interested in seeing this movie. I was not hype about it until probably 2 weeks ago, and there was something about it visually that I really liked, so I was, why not? Why not go in? Look at Avatar. Avatar did like $4 billion and not a good story. It's not. I'm sorry, Avatar is not a good movie, but it's visually stunning and broke grounds, so it deserved that kind of thing. But it's not a good plot or anything. It's boring, in fact. The fact that we have to sit through 3 more Avatar movies is a damn shame, because nobody gives a crap about Avatar anymore, unless it's Avatar: The Last Airbender, because that's a gem and was ruined by M. Night Shyamalan. I can't talk about that. Anyway, back to Valerian. I personally really enjoyed the movie. I thought that Cara Delevingne actually impressed me in this movie, and probably going in, me thinking that she can't act, and she actually acted a little bit, is why I'm so high on it. I personally really liked Dane DeHaan as the casting, and I thought that their chemistry, while it wasn't always there were times where I thought it was electric, and I thought it really worked. It didn't always work. And the first hour of the movie is really good. Everything that happens on that planet of Mao when it's getting destroyed, what you see in the trailers, is so interesting. And then it goes straight into the sequence of them trying to get some kind of converter thing, which is an animal that they're protecting this entire movie. And they go into this really cool marketplace that's in another dimension. So people who go to this marketplace on different worlds or different dimensions all have to have certain like goggles on and certain gloves on so they can interact and see what's actually happening, which the nerd in me is just like, that's so cool. Like, I cannot wait until the future to where my reincarnated self can do something like that. And then we get to actually see Alpha and kind of see them as actual agents in their uniforms. And you get a little bit more of their personalities in uniform, where Dane DeHaan's Valerian is very by the book and doesn't really like to break rules. He's a bit of a smartass, but he is an officer straight through. And then you have Laureline, who is so smart that she likes to break the rules because she thinks that sometimes what her thinking is that she's smarter than these people, so she can break the rules, and that, you know, rules can sometimes mean to be broken. That was a bad sentence that I just said, but I said it, and I don't want to refilm that part, so we're keeping it. But I thought that was a fun play, because typically what you see is the girl is kind of that straight-laced, boringish character, and the man gets to be the rule breaker, and I liked how they switched that up in this. And there's this fun mystery about these beings that aren't showing up in any of the databases, but we know they existed because that's where we start off the movie with, and you're wondering what's going on. But the movie takes a big railing when we enter Rihanna territory. And I don't think Rihanna's a bad actress. I just think that this whole 20 to 25 minute sequence was only to serve the purpose of showing off Luc Besson's creativity and his world building. I think that he just wanted to put a glamour pod in there and put in this weird sequence of these creatures that wanted to eat Laureline's head, and you could take out those 25 minutes of the movie, and first off, it would be a shorter movie, which is better because it did feel long, especially with those sequences that I really, really disliked. Also, you cut it out, and it wouldn't make a damn difference to the story. I guess Valerian learns a little bit of, like, vulnerability in those 20 minutes, but it's still, cut that out. You get just a more cohesive film. It doesn't feel so daunting all the time, and it doesn't change the plot or the outcome of the movie whatsoever. It's literally just there to service Luc Besson and his ideas of this world. It's basically, if this was a TV show, that would be the filler episode. That meant nothing to the plot, but it was there just to fill an hour. And if you know me, I hate filler episodes so much. Also, something that didn't work was the villain of this movie. It was just comical how bad it was. Like, say what you want to say about maybe Marvel not having the most interesting villains or the, most compelling, but this one was just laughable. Valerian's villain was so stupid, and it was just like, you just didn't care about it at all. There were certain things that I thought I cared about in the movie, was like the well-being of this race of beings, for lack of a better word, that, their planet was destroyed, and it was for some reason that the villain did some stupid plot that I don't even want to think about, really. But I'm kind of dogging on this movie, but I really enjoyed it. I walked out really quite high on it because honestly, you take out that 20-25 minutes, you have a perfectly fine movie that's fun, it's entertaining, it's visually stunning. Sometimes the acting's a little wooden, but for the most part, I thought it was perfectly fine and acceptable. But you know what? A lot of movies have weak villains all the time, and so I wouldn't have been thinking too much about it. But it was just that whole sequence that made no sense to the movie, and in my mind, I see the movie without that. And you know what? I do plan on watching this again because I did enjoy it quite a bit. I would just fast forward through the part. I honestly would, which I guess isn't a good thing in a movie, but when the movie's like 2 hours and like 15 minutes long or something like that, and it feels like 3 hours long, you cut out 20 minutes of the movie that made no sense. Like, come on, Luc Besson, you know better. And you know what? I wouldn't recommend this film to everybody. I would recommend this film to people who raved about Avatar, because it's visually just as stunning, in my opinion. It didn't break new grounds, but the visual effects were impeccable. Anybody who's a fan of sci-fi or fantasy, more sci-fi, of course, because fantasy is a different thing, but that kind of realm of make-believe, 100%, especially, oh my God. And you know what? I do want to talk about the first like 10 minutes of the movie, where it's basically through time, a whole bunch of nations come together outside of our orbit on the U.S. Space station, and it's friendly greetings, and eventually the gravity comes in and they don't float anymore and they can walk on the station, and then they get their first alien beings, and they're kind of freaking out, but it's like polite and nice, and they shake hands. And I just like the fact that all of these different aliens, even the menacing looking ones, they're just like, yeah, we're just here to explore, just like you guys. Like, we're not here to destroy worlds. That's not our thing. And I really enjoyed that, because mainly when you get any kind of alien movies like this, they're there to destroy Earth for no real good reason. Maybe they want the planet's core. But I would definitely suggest this to any sci-fi fan, any fan of space, Star Trek, Star Wars, any of that. You know what? You might not like it, but I personally really enjoyed it. I did. Minus the Rihanna stuff. So if you guys like this review, give it a thumbs up. Comment down below. What did you guys think of Valerian? Maybe you hated it more than me. Maybe you actually liked it just as much as me, because I think I'm on the far end of the spectrum on this one. I don't think a lot of people really cared, but I did. I really enjoyed it. I think it'd be also, one thing I will say is I think it would be a great HBO series. I do not think that they would ever spend the money on it, because it's an expensive endeavor to do it correctly, which you would need all of that special effects. I mean, basically, that whole scene with the planet Mao, I mean, all of that is special effects. Anyway, I hope you guys like the review. Subscribe to me as well. I make videos Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Every Monday is a Game of Thrones recap. Wednesday and Thursday, other things. You know, random reviews that really don't matter, because either they're late or they're movies from like 30 years ago that I'm experiencing for the first time. So they're irrelevant. I will see you guys on Friday. Bye.